Big g'day from down under, and let's take a big deep breath in to start with through the nose. Breathe in, look at the ceiling, and move it around a bit. Let it out.
All right,
Good
let's
morning.
get good morning to you. Good afternoon to me. We are on opposite sides of the globe today, every day. Hey everyone, I'm Donna Hoffmeyer, host of Beyond the Front Line, and welcome to Collective Collaborations. This is where we stop skimming the surface and start digging deep. Each series, we take one specific topic that matters to our community and we break it down piece by piece with the experts who actually get it. Our current collection is Fuck, I Thought I Was the Only One. Veteran and Breathworks in Bed founder Tim Thomas and I look at the invisible weight we carry out of high-stress careers, from chronic pain and isolation to survival mode anger, and how we use tactical breathwork to physically change our biology, turn off the alarm, and actually heal. Let's get into it. All right, I want to start with this, right? So our last podcast series, we actually were focused on sleep and how breath work can help sleep get us back into getting into sleep, getting a better sleep. And you gave some great little techniques on how to come down using the nasal breathing. Okay, let me just see if I get it right. So
Oh,
for
this will be
going
interesting.
to
Yeah, we spoke about
bed,
this yesterday. Do you remember?
I'm thinking. Okay,
You
so
want to go to
going
bed
to
right.
bed,
That's a
it's
tip.
your
You want to go to bed
right,
right. Yep,
the
right
right
thumb.
thumb on your right nostril, and then you're breathing in through your left nostril, and you're
Mm-hmm.
blowing out through your left nostril. So that's to help you come down. And then in the
Yes.
morning,
Activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah, the rest and digest. Literal
rest and
chemical.
digest. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so in the morning, you're going to do the opposite, and you're going to take your left thumb, you're going to put it over your left nose. And then we forgot this part because on both sides, you're going to take your fingers and you're going to, on your
Yeah.
left side, I mean, your right side, you're going to push your cheek back
Yeah, it's like you're
just to
smearing
open up the
your
sinus,
cheeks to open up
essentially.
the sinuses. Yeah.
And then you're going to take
Um,
that deep breath in and through your nose and out through your nose. And you're going to do that. Uh, what did we say? Because we said use your hands to count.
use
So
your
five to
fingers. So
10
count as you
times.
breathe in and out through your nose. Drive a finger at a time to count these breaths. And normally, you'll get to 10, 15, and then you've attained a quite a nice state. And you can either keep going, go to sleep, or get out of bed. And this is free, non-addictive, and very powerful to start your day. And you don't
Yeah.
hear about this sort of stuff because no one's making money from it. And I lost, 6 years of my life to pills. I can't get that time back, but I didn't know breath work could make such a difference. So that's why I'm just so super passionate to connect people to the power inside their own bodies.
Right,
You know,
right, exactly.
yeah,
That's why we're
yeah.
doing this series, right?
Oh
So,
yeah,
so that was all in the last podcast. So we used our breath to go to bed, our breath to wake up in the morning. But now we're going to talk something that's actually related to sleep because we don't
oh
have
yeah.
enough sleep, and we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. When you don't have enough sleep, your pain, if you have any pain and chronic pain, it's more intense, right? You feel it more. So here's a stat. I have a whole series of stats here that we'll probably talk out throughout the podcast, but 70% of veterans, and I'm going to actually kind of push out, even though it wasn't part of the research, but I'll say that I bet you first responders would be a similar stat, but 70% of the veterans live with chronic pain. And for many, the injury has healed, but the pain remains, right? Because where, and you're going to ask this, Tim, where does pain originate from? Like, is it from the site or right? It's from the where?
Well, the brain, and when you have regular pain, your neurons, when they fire together, they wire together. That's what the guys
Oh,
at the Brain
that's a
Institute
good
told me. When they
one.
fire together, they wire together.
Remember that one. Fire together, wire together. So 70% of veterans are dealing with with chronic pain. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that first responder world could match that number. It would still be a very high number, right?
That's an insane number.
It is an insane number. And I learned this term. Have you heard this term? Nociplastic pain. Have you ever heard of that? NOCI plastic, all one word, nociplastic. It basically that the brain and the spinal cord in populations that are under high stress, right? So essentially all veterans and first responders, we live on adrenaline. We have lots of adrenaline and cortisol pumping through us all the time. So for people like that, that the spinal cord and the brain, they turn up the volume on pain signals for people that are constantly
Yeah.
under stress.
Donna, as you're reading that, there's so many people stating the quote of this title of this show saying, fuck, I thought I was the only one. Because what you just said there, it's that elephant in the room that no one's been able to say. That very unique pain that goes from your spine that seems to take over everything in your head, and it's not a localized thing. It's like your whole world kind of implodes. But hey, take another coffee, take another energy drink. Harden up. This is the cycle. We get in because there's more important people out there that we need to serve, and this job is important. So who am I to complain? In fact, the fact that I'm in pain tells me I'm obviously doing achieving a certain amount. So it's up to me to keep going.
And there's two things that kind of happen, right? So chronic pain, we end up in a loop, right? So the brain goes into like fight or flight kind of thing, right? Because we're in that pain. And when we're in that pain, what do, right? We tense up and it leads to more pain. So I've had people that are like, oh my God, my shoulder is killing me. And it's not their shoulder. It's their neck. I talked to a physical therapist the other day. She's going to be coming on my regular podcast, Beyond the Front Line. And she said, you would be shocked to see some of the places of destabilization and where it ends up showing as pain. She had a situation where somebody's elbow kept hurting them. And it was, believe it or not, related to ankle instability. So like where we feel it does not necessarily mean where it is, right?
Donna, it's speaking to a much higher truth here, and that is we all own bodies. We've owned our body our whole life. But do we know what it does? Do we know how it works? Do we know what it can do for us? And this is sort of the shocking truth that I'm often faced with, that I didn't face until I got really messed up physically. And I put myself in the hands of certain healers, and I'll just say this: not all healers are born equal. Some are actually pretty bad at their job. But here I was offering my body into the hands of somebody else, and they were promising but not delivering. And it's I'm so glad we're talking about this, because so many people in pain, they're fatigued, and then they're, with whatever energy they can muster, going in to get help, and the help's not helping. Sometimes it makes it worse. And then they end up blaming themselves. And I've had guys tell me, literally, Tim, I tried to get help, but the help didn't help. In fact, it made it worse. So guess what? I'm never doing it again. I don't know how to trust these guys. I tried to trust them, but I feel betrayed now. And I'm like, bro, my man, I hear you.
Well, and what is the other thing? I don't know if you've seen this happen too, because I've seen it in people with chronic pain. If you take that pain, let's just make up and say, well, when everybody, like lower back pain, right? And this person has constant lower back pain. And when they first have this pain and you ask them to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe they're like, oh, it's a 8. Okay, that's what they have it rated as. That pain, now it's chronic, so it goes on for 4, 5, 6 months. And then you ask them to rate it 6 months, 8 months later, and that pain they might be like, oh, it's like a 5 or 6, but the pain actually hasn't changed. They've just desensitized to that pain, that level of pain. And they mentally, they name it a lower number, but physically they're exhausted. Their muscles
Yeah,
are
it's
tensed up. They're
yeah.
having
They
pain
give
in
it a
other
lower number, but they've
areas.
developed some compensatory skills um, that work, but it just means they're taking energy away from all the other systems. And it's a funny thing. Sometimes it's sort of chicken and egg. Sometimes you can have a thought in your head, oh, I've got to do something, and then that makes a tension in your back, and then the tension in your back sends energy back to that thought in your head, oh, I've got to do something, and it's this tennis game with an ever increasing, ball of energy between the thought, the tension in your body, the tension in your body, and your thought. And it's funny how this stuff shows up. For me, it's all not so much these days, but it used to be when I was doing something mundane like the dishes, it's like the demons would come. These thoughts that would create tension in my body, the tension in my body would then create the thoughts in my head, and before you know it, it's like I'm not there at the dishes, it's like I'm somewhere else. I guess the other term for that would be rumination, where you have a thought that takes up 2% of your head, then you focus on it, it becomes 4, 8, 16, 34,
Yeah.
and it takes over everything. And so what I've found is breath is one of the best ways to stop that escalation when you interrupt it early. Because in the past, when I had the pharmaceuticals, when I started this, when I felt this escalation in my body, I'm like, oh, I'll just take a pill. But it's not actually removing the blockage within me. It's just dealing with the symptoms of the blockage. The blockage still lives.
Would you agree when you tighten up? So you're talking about this loop, right? There's this
Yeah,
constant loop that's
yeah. The thing
happening.
starts small and ends up taking over everything. Technically, that's rumination. Yeah,
Yeah. So when you have the pain and then you end up tensing up and you actually probably cause more pain because those muscles and exhaustion and fatigue because you're so tense. And what's the other thing that's not happening, which is what we're talking about? You're not breathing. And if you're
yeah.
not
Oh, shallow breathing.
breathing, you're not oxygenating anything because
Yeah.
everything's clamped down. And there's no, like, the breath is actually the cog in the wheel, right? Like that's what it
One
should be
leads the
doing.
other. That's an excellent point. One leads the other. So if you saw someone in public going, you know, everyone would go, okay, that person's freaking out. They're in fight or flight. They're not really thinking clearly.
Right.
And it's funny how us mammals are wired to always be aware of other people's state of breath. Because if you tried to do those sounds in public, everyone would look, right? Thing is, and that triggers your amygdala, your fight or flight, okay? Rapid, shallow breathing. And, you know, there's a time and a place to switch on, be aware, and have that energy in your system. I'm not against those states. Like playing a sporting game, you're in your amygdala, you're just in that moment. But if if you don't know how to engage out of your fight or flight, everything becomes a fight or everything's become something you need to avoid. And it doesn't matter if you're shallow breathing rapid or you're shallow breathing slow, the same energy system is being used, your fight or flight. And unfortunately, you know, we're both, you know, I'm standing occasionally, but you're sitting at your desk. And when we sit at a desk and we're kind of hunched over, we're actually squashing our lungs and we're not accessing that full range of breath. So rapid breathing can create a stress state, and stress can create a rapid, shallow breathing state. So that's why the Chinese have said for thousands of years, if you can control your breath, you can control everything.
We will be right back after this short break. When you serve your community, you deserve a team that has your back. At Coming Home Well and the Transitioning Warrior Outreach, we proudly partner with Big Frog Custom T-shirts and more of New Braunfels, Texas. As a veteran-owned local business, Big Frog delivers top-quality company-branded apparel, custom shirts, team apparel, or personalized gear with unmatched service. Support the business that truly supports our heroes. Visit bigfrognb.com today. Thanks for sticking with us. Now back to the episode.
So, okay, like this is just what popped in my head. Essentially, that's an anxiety attack. So years ago, when I used to be a personal trainer, in one of my other lives there, and I was training a friend of mine. She was on the treadmill, and we were having just this random conversation, and she was talking about her mother-in-law coming in town. That was the
Oh,
conversation.
interesting.
Right. And she obviously was not a fan of her mother-in-law because I watched her and I watched her start to kind of like work up. And the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. She starts to clutch her chest. I'm turning down the treadmill. I take her off. I know she's in a panic attack. I mean, this triggered her hard. The gym director um, was walking by. He knew I was a nurse, and he goes, he's ready to call 911.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
he's like, Donna, and I'm like, I got this. I go, I just need a paper bag like that because I knew what was happening. And so
Yeah.
give her that, I slow her down. Her fingers were numb, like the whole thing happened.
Wow.
And she didn't know what happened. She looked at me and I go, wow, welcome to your first panic attack. I go, you clearly are not a fan of your mother-in-law coming. It whatever it was in that conversation just sent her, and she went into a panic attack. It was the craziest thing to watch, like to watch the whole thing start, happen, peak, and come back down. But
But no, that's
it
such a clear example of how a regularly functioning person, you know, in the part of your brain that can think clearly, respond appropriately, be above the situation, can be shut down and made somewhat redundant by stress, rapid breathing, to the point of unfunctionability. And how did you bring her back? Got her breathing into a paper bag.
Yeah,
You
as you
know,
get the
it'd
carbon
just be way out
dioxide
of
up to
breath.
slow her down, yeah, to kind of do that. But if we bring it back to like pain, so somebody's like in pain, in constant pain,
Yeah.
and and spikes in pain or new pain, compounded, right?
Mm.
Compounded pain, it starts to add up. And I've had plenty of service members say to me like, I'm much more agitated, or all of a sudden I'm anxious and I don't understand why. I've never been an anxious person before. And now I'm anxious over everything. Like you see these things happen. And this is the impact. I want to throw out some numbers on chronic pain that I
Yeah, please
pulled.
do.
So this was a 2025 systematic review of first responders. And they found 85% of them suffered from significant sleep deprivation, going back to our first, right, our first podcast, which directly is exacerbated by chronic musculoskeletal pain from the physical demands of the job. So they're humping it. You get a firefighter that's hosed and people and fires and this and that, and then they're not getting sleep, and it's exacerbating any pain that they're having, right? What are your thoughts? I thought you were going to say something. No?
Well, no, no, no. I just, again, it's one feeding the other. You know, exhaustion feeds pain, pain feeds exhaustion, and it's inflammation of the system. Lack of blood flow, lack of oxygen supply, and unfortunately, it seemingly is not just accepted; it's almost worn like a badge of honor. I only got 2 hours sleep last night. Have a coffee and harden up.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah,
So here's
yeah.
some interesting facts. Now you say that, like, just kind of shutting it up. 31 to 44% active duty service members deal with chronic pain, right? None of us had pain when we were in the military. No, right? I mean, I was 100, I was 128 pounds, lifted weights. I was, solid. And my ruck was 80 pounds that I was carrying. And it was like the funniest thing because I'd have to squat down, get it in, and then lift with my legs. But if I didn't do it right, I became a turtle, right? I just like flipped me back. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm literally carrying over half my body weight. That's my That's my rec, right? I'm sure that's no reason why
One
my
and a half times your body
L5S1.
weight, not just half. Did I hear that right? You said half your body weight? You said it'd be 1.5 times your body weight if
No,
you're
no,
how many
it was
pounds?
80 pounds. I'm 125,
Okay, got it, right.
128. Yeah. So it's over half my body weight. Yeah.
Got it.
So, so I mean, third to for up to 40% of people in the military dealing with chronic pain. And the longer your career is, we were all aching near retirement. All of us were,
Yeah.
right? And then the other part, we talk about the mental health part of it. So this was a John Hopkins analysis. It was like a meta-analysis um, of 375 studies. 40% of adults with chronic pain, and this actually, I've seen this, experience significant depression and anxiety. And have you ever, I've seen this many times where somebody comes in and the pain clinic, they come in chronic pain, and then they prescribe them an antidepressant
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's that link. And so if we are, the theory of is that you're less depressed, then you feel less pain. And I've seen it, there is truth in it. I've seen people go on these antidepressants, but at the same time, I'm like, but that's not
Yeah,
solving
they're
the
addressing the symptom. They're
problem.
not addressing the problem, and I'm just getting a vision of so many people wasting years of
And
their life
yeah,
in this. Yeah.
and then on top of everything, if you have a higher risk of depression or you're dealing with depression, you're actually less likely to go seek care for your chronic pain, which makes
Yeah.
sense, right? To me, that makes total sense because you don't even have enough. I mean, have you ever seen catatonic depression before? Have you ever?
Not in person, no. No.
Yeah, I've seen it. I actually have a friend that had catatonic depression. Let me tell you, I've never seen anything like it. And when I see that, I mean, she walked like a sloth. I mean, it was crazy to watch her. Um, and so I think of somebody like that with severe depression can't even get out of their own way to get up, to take a shower, to brush their teeth. They're not going to go seek care. And now they're dealing with pain. And now it's like this ugly circle. The depression, that means the pain gets higher, they get more depressed, and they just sit in the center of the fire and can't reach the fire extinguisher. So, I mean, it has this huge impact. I'm going to read a couple more that um, I'm going to end it with kind of not the best one, but I want to read a couple in between. So, first responder quality of life. This was a VA health system research. This 2025 data showed that 82% of first responders used non-invasive pain management devices like non-invasive pain management devices reported not just pain reduction, but significant improvement in their ability to spend quality time with their family. So they're seeing the benefit of the non pharmaceutical engagement, right? Which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But all this going on, right? So this is the last part of it. They're in pain. They're having depression. They can't get out of the cycle. They're not finding that the cog in the wheel kind of thing. It makes these people, these veterans and first responders, 3 times higher rate of suicide ideation
Mm,
because they're
yeah.
exhausted. I mean, you add that all up, the pain, the muscle tension, the depression.
Yeah, Donna, I'd love to speak to that.
Yeah, please
And
do.
I really hope it's one of those moments where the title of the show, "Fuck," I thought I was the only one, comes to the front. The conversation I see happening again and again of veterans and first responders in that space is they live with this for a period, and when the pain, after a certain duration or intensity, it transforms from just pain but to loneliness, isolation. And that's when you get the negative spectrum of mental health issues coming in. And the conversation that happens before suicide, without them even knowing it, occurs something like this. Well, what do I know right now? I know I'm in pain. And I can see I'm causing pain to those I care about. And if I look into the future right now, I can honestly not see that changing. There's a pause, and then they're like, you know what? Here's a great idea. I'm going to remove the pain for me. I'm going to remove the pain to you by removing myself from this situation.
The shame is what I was like, you're nailing the next part of that, right?
Because this is where suicide becomes like this beacon of light, because they feel like they're doing people a favor by removing the pain. And I've had this conversation with guys. I said, look, no one can stop you if you're fully committed to removing yourself. Okay, but if you're doing it for pain, let me challenge that assumption. Everyone who knows you, the pain they experience after your suicide will be times by about 1,000, you know? So no one can stop you, but don't do it under the misconception that you're saving someone pain by doing this.
So I just had this conversation before we recorded. It was a friend of mine, and he was saying that he has a friend that he's going to bring to our breakfast, and he says, everybody thinks he's doing well and he's kind of got it all together. He goes, but I know him, and he's like, and I know he's struggling. And I said, go with your gut, right? Because we are masters at masking. We are absolute masters at masking. Yeah. And that shame part, that's like the best thing you could say, I think, is like, I had a therapist. I had a lot of therapists over the years as different discussions, and I've heard the same comments, which at first was a little shocking to me the first time I heard it, but over time I understood it. And they said, if somebody is committed to ending their life, the harsh reality is there's nothing you're going to do from that little leap to the plan to the action. If it's committed, if they are committed to it, right? Because there's ideation where they've thought about it and stuff, but they don't have like this formal plan. But if they are fully in, and these different therapist friends of mine have said, because I made the comment like, but they're going to therapy and they're, I don't understand. And they're like, right, we just give them the tools. We teach them the tools. We teach them how the tools are utilized, but it's up to them to utilize those tools. And the reality is there are some people that it doesn't matter. They are committed, and that's going to be that. That's a harsh thing to hear, right? And especially like being a nurse, like I'm going to save everybody. That was a really hard thing to hear. But over many years of experience dealing in the mental health community with our veterans, and I was like, okay, I kind of understand what they mean by that. It's not a big, huge number, but one is too many, So
Pause for a second, please, because I can see the impact that had on you, and I just want to acknowledge you for, regardless of the shock, the impact, your own sort of almost survivor guilt, you kept choosing. Okay, so let's not leave that unopened. Let's close that loop and acknowledge yourself for seeing it and moving through it, when a lot of people go, you know what, too hard, piss off. My life,
no,
all that crap.
We saw it a lot. I mean, more than anybody wants to see. I mean, the stories are like, I'm sure you and I could sit many hours comparing notes on these stories.
Don't like working with veterans and first responders. Sometimes it's a pretty rough day in the space.
Pretty dark. I've had many conversations on, hey, I know the gun's sitting on that table, let's talk about, the reality. And what you said is what kind of caught my attention was like,
Mm.
the assumption is if I end this, I'm going to end my pain, which is a true statement, right? But I'm also going to end everybody else's suffering too, which is not the true statement. You are not going to do that. You are going to, like you said, 1,000-fold their pain, right? So, for those out there, your loved ones, yes, of course it's stressful to them. They love you. Why would it not be stressful? I mean, that if it wasn't, then maybe they don't have that intimate relationship with you, but they love you and care about you. Of course, it's gonna be stressful and they want the best for you. So it's never a good outcome. They would rather have you present and helping you through that than they would you not there.
Yeah, and Donna, I'm sure I'm speaking on both of our behalves. It's not an easy thing to even talk about this, but again, we want people hearing this to go, fuck, I thought I was the only one. And those unspoken words around your heart, I've often found when you hear someone else saying it, it kind of dissolves those unspoken words become like rocks around your heart, and when you hear someone else saying it, it's like it dissolves them, and all of a sudden you get a few more options. Because when I was in pain and the pain was, disconnecting me, and as I've observed, disconnection leads to more disconnection, connection leads to more connection, but the ultimate disconnect is, well, I'm going to disconnect from life. And that makes sense because in my state of disconnect, my state of loneliness, isolation, and pain, that just makes sense. Why would I want to, if I look into my future, why would I want to do that? We had a goal, Donna, and I've shared this before, but I'll share it now. We had a goal of saving 40 veteran lives from suicide, a lifetime goal. I would have died happy if we achieved that. But we addressed two things. And one was how pain transforms into loneliness. And all people needed to hear was someone who'd gone through what they'd gone through successfully and spoke to that situation, And then jaws would pop open. They'd say, fuck, I thought I was the only one. That was the starting point. And then the next point was getting them out of fatigue. And getting out of fatigue often starts addressing the chronic pain they're in, not just mentally, but physically.
Yes.
We'll be back in a moment after a word from V2M Veteran Magazine. And when we return, Tim gives insight into the 2 golden moments each day that give understanding to our state of being.
Looking for stories that truly matter to our military community? Discover V2M, the Veteran Magazine. Read online at v2mag.com.
The ability to rest, restore, recover, rejuvenate, regenerate your own physical body, it's a bit of a lost art form, but it's actually easier than you think. And my interpretation, and the thing that I had so much success with, was understanding that our state of being is dictated largely by 2 golden moments each day. The 5 minutes as you're going to sleep and the 5 minutes you're waking up. And everyone with chronic pain or mental health issues understand what I'm talking about here. Because most people unconsciously poison both. I used to poison myself going to sleep with stress, worry, can't drop my guard. Whatever sleep I got when I woke up, my body was like, fuck this day. It's like every cell in me wanted to throw up and not want to be there. And, you wake up feeling crappy, you go through the day feeling crappy, and I noticed it's like the economy depends on you feeling crappy and fatigued, because then you pay money for substances and stuff to somehow compensate for your own lack underneath your own skin.
Here, I'm glad you said that. Before we get into the breath work with this, I'm going to show you how much this costs, because I found a little bit of data on that. Guess how much? So this is the total economic burden. I'm sorry, the total economic cost of chronic pain. This is in the US.
Actually, Donna, when we do these segments, I'd love to title them Donna's Data.
Ah,
Something,
Donna's data. Donna's
because I
data.
love the data you
I'm a
bring.
little
Donna's Data
nerdy.
section. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know. People pick on me because I do like
Everyone needs to know a nerd.
nerd. I'm a nerd. Yeah. So guess how much it costs in the recent years. This is loss of productivity. So the cost
Yeah.
of the loss of so when we're in pain, we can't work, we can't be part of that community, we can't give back in any which way. And this is they were looking at high impact chronic pain. How much loss of productivity in dollar signs? Take a guess.
Annually, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to
It said recent years, so we'll just say over the last
recent
couple of
years. So
years.
annually in the US,
Yep.
I'm assuming. Okay, US, I would say at least 500 billion.
Oh, you're good. You're close. $722 billion
My goodness.
in loss of productivity due to high impact chronic pain. That's like a staggering.
Why aren't more people talking about this?
I don't know. But I mean, like I saw that number and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
That
forget world peace. Let's just work on making our bodies feel a bit better. You
and
know, that's
and that doesn't even in my head, that doesn't even include because I don't have that number. I didn't grab it, but what we are that's the loss of productivity. That's not the cost of the care. So can you
yeah,
if you
no, that
add the
and that's not the you don't add up the impacts on relationships. I mean, how much does a divorce cost these days?
oh my God,
You
yeah.
know?
If we added that in, so you're definitely pushing the trillions of dollars in the trillion.
Mm.
I mean, if you're
Oh
already
my
at
gosh.
722 billion, you're
Oh
definitely
my
going to push.
gosh.
So
That's
you're looking
imagine
at,
what we could do with that money.
dude, I'd be happy with like 0.0001%. You know how much I could do with that in a nonprofit? I
But it's just
0.00001%.
I mean, it's just because it's not a spectacular, attention grabbing headline, people, it's like, and I think one actually drives the other. Like when I was in chronic pain, I would look for distractions, like that cheap dopamine hit, like
Right.
scrolling or someone who's making a controversial statement that somehow distracted me from my own pain,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I'm really hoping that people that are listening to this can tune into this, to the frequency that Donna and I are talking about here, because if we can address this and get through this, then we're going to make a way for others. And I think there's a golden question people need to ask here, especially in the chronic pain, because like I said, the most dangerous thing about chronic pain, and it really doesn't matter if it's physical or emotional, it gets to a certain duration or intensity where it transforms into loneliness, isolation. I'm the only one going through this. So wherever the pain comes from, cancer, relationship, veteran, first responder, corporate, the golden question that's going to crack the world open for you is this. Everyone's up against something. How many other people do you think are in your specific to you situation right now? How many people are experiencing a particular kind of chronic pain?
Oh my
And
God.
give it a number.
In the worlds I work in,
Yeah,
it's everybody.
Okay, let's make it about you, Donna. How many people do you think are in the same situation as far as chronic pain goes?
Everybody
Give it
I
a
work
number.
with. Oh my God, 100%. I literally, because I work in that veteran first responder community. And I mean, we crack jokes all the time about it, like
Yep.
how many creaks did you hear this morning? Or, I mean, everybody,
So,
every single
and
person.
if we were to scale it out, there'd be a couple of 100 million people in some form of chronic
Yeah.
pain. Yeah, easy,
Yeah.
right? Easy. So if people listening to this can give it a real number, because these people really exist, they're real people. And this question, it won't matter if it's 2026 or 3026. Those people are real. And if it's 100 million people, say, just as an example, wouldn't matter if it's 10.
Yeah.
But split that number and put 50 million on your right, 50 million on your left. And they're looking in and they're saying, look, if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for us. And that realization can often break people's isolation. And guess what? You've just found a tribe. You've actually found a group of people that are going to be so glad that, back in 2026, you chose to move forward. And the great thing about realizing you've got so many people left and right of you willing you on is because progress, when you're in chronic pain for so long, can seem really hard to come by. It might just be an inch in a month, right? Mm-hmm. But if you've got 100 million people willing you on, that's 100 million inches you've just made. It's not just you. You're making this collective movement forward.
Do you think, let me ask this question. Do you think that goes back to our need for value and purpose?
I think it goes deeper than that. Value and purpose gives us connection.
Okay.
And we're as powerful as we are connected. And the most dangerous thing for us social mammals to experience is loneliness and isolation. No one's got my back. I'm supposed to be part of a tribe. They've got my back, I've got theirs, and I can rest in that. But if no one's got my back, I can't rest. And guess what? When I'm not resting, I'm in my fight or flight system because I've got to scan for all the threats. And because I'm scanning for the threats all that time, I got that tension in my body. And that tension in my body can have me hold injuries and they become chronic. And there's this loop that just happens, 1 degree at a time. And we just don't see it until something really, really bad happens. Or you actually got your ears open when Donna's talking about how impactful this is, not just for yourself, because we can sort of somehow justify it's okay with me and I used to pour a lot of alcohol over this sort of stuff, but when it shows up in the relationships closest to you.
It's hard. Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of a mirror effect. All right, we're going to get into breathwork, but I want to tell this story. You just made me think of a story. Okay, so very good friend of mine went through a struggle, alcoholism. And all the details are irrelevant, but an incident happened, and she decided to mix wine and some medication at the same time, and got a quick high and ended up falling off a ladder and cracked her head open. She had a burst wound on her forehead, right? And they're always like really bloody and stuff. And her kids were home. They were little. They ran over to my house. They were like, Miss Donna, Miss Donna. And so, I went over there. I don't know how she managed. She was also a nurse. She managed to get herself to the bed and get a bandage on. And I said, you need to go to the hospital. And she's like, no. And she flat out was refusing to me, right? And so I was like, no problem. So I called the ambulance myself, bring them in. And here's these 3 big guys in there talking to her, and they come out and they're like, "Man, we can't force her." I called our supervisors. They said, "We can't force her. She didn't want to go in." And I said, "Okay, let me handle this." So I walk in, and all I said was, "If this was me in that bed, what would you make me do?" And she just looked at me. And then the guys went back in there, and then they came out and they said, "She'll go to the hospital, but only if you take her." Damn it. But I did. I was like, all right, know.
But broke her circuitry so deeply. And people could have argued, people could have oppressed, but the fact that you broke her ice and she had and that's like, if you're good enough, you would listen to the one we had before this. And there was that amazing story of how Donna was in a helicopter with the person who was in a well,
not a helicopter. I was on a C-130 fixed wing.
C-130. Oh, okay, yeah. Right. Sorry. For some reason, in my mind, it was a helicopter. But yeah, because when I'm thinking a deployment zone, I'm always thinking helicopters.
Yeah, there's a lot of helos there.
Yeah. And when this young man hadn't slept for 3 days. He was in a state of extreme irritation. And you spoke about how he signaled to you, and your oppo was like, I don't go close to him, he might go crazy. But then when he whispered, you remind me of my sister, and he touched your face, that broke his isolation, and that gave him the peace that transcends all human understanding.
Yeah. Isn't that
It is
crazy?
not on a spreadsheet. It is not a medicine you can give. And
Connection. You just
it's
made it.
quite
I mean, when you said all that the first time, you were talking about like connection and relating it over to safe space and pain and the whole thing. I was like, holy crap. It starts with connection, which I'll ask you this. Do you contend that that's some of the reason why we don't have as much success with treatment because we're not connected to the healthcare workers? We're not connected to the doctor because you got 15 minutes. And I'm not knocking the doctors and nurses because they are all trying to do their best in a short staff environment, dealing with insurance and all that other stuff. But all that is distraction from them doing what they were trained to do, which is to connect and care.
You're right, because in those deep states of pain and fatigue, the ancient wiring becomes very apparent. We crave connection. I don't like to use the word creating a safe space because it's not the space that gives us the sense of safety. We create the safe space because of our sense of connection, our sense of power and purpose we get from that connection. And that's why you can be in the middle of a war zone and feel completely safe because you've got those people around you that have got your back 100%. It's this human superpower. We literally can do incredible things. But in every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when you're fully empowered and you're fully connected, there's nothing you can't do. Conversely, let's say chronic pain, mental health has created this state of extreme disconnection, then everything's hard because everything is hard.
Well, that segue is perfect because if we are disconnected and we are isolated and we know that we got to figure something out. What do we do? What is that nice transportable thing that we have, Tim? I'll let you get into that.
It's as obvious as the nose on your face. We can self-medicate with our breath.
So tell me, like, how? So we talked about what we did the last time, right, for sleep. What do you do for chronic pain? Like, what is the technique that somebody can use to help?
Okay. So do you remember in med school they spoke about you've got to get the dose rate right. There's like the right dose, the right time, there's a certain sequence that for that medicine to be effective, it's got to have a right amount, the right timing, etc. And breath is very similar. And the more you get into breath work, the more you're going to realize that we don't own a set of lungs, we own a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You breathe a certain way for a certain duration, you elicit a certain response. Now, my favorite way is having guided breath work that'll create a certain state. Because when my body is often functioning in a way that that's not working, it's very hard for me to breathe. So if in those golden 5 minutes going to sleep, I'll have a guided breathwork track. And those and that'll turn a certain type of breathwork that'll turn my bed into a cloud. And then 5 minutes upon waking, I'll have a guided breathwork track that has that first 5 minutes of the day in a state where my bed feels like a trampoline. Wow, it's actually giving me momentum. It's not like the gravity hasn't turned by like 1,000 on me. So I'm going to, and outside of those times, the best one I like to give people is I show them something about their own body that they don't know. And that is in their two fingers, their pointer finger and their index finger. You call them that in the States, yeah? There's no imperial.
Yes, we do.
Fingers? Okay,
yep.
Right. Pointer and index finger, if you pinch them into your thumb really firmly, they become power buttons for the top third of your lungs. So if you think about your lungs, there's a top third, there's a middle third, there's a bottom third. All right? And what I want you to do, forget about your power buttons for a bit and just breathe in, but then breathe in more. Feel that top third, breathe in more. Just hold it and just sort of move your shoulders as you hold it and feel that top third opening up. Okay? And if you're brave enough, let it out with a nice big sigh. Ah. Okay. Good first effort, Donna.
Okay. I'm learning.
In Australia, we don't say, they stopped us saying you failed. They only say NYC, not yet competent.
I'm building.
So what we're going to do is, with these newly discovered power buttons, I want you to exhale, breathe in, and halfway through your breathe in, I want you to pinch those power buttons really hard and look up. Okay? So, and notice how pinching your power buttons can inflate that top third even more. So let's just do it in a coordinated way. You're doing really well.
You can feel that. I can
you
feel
can
that.
feel that.
That
this
is crazy.
Aussie guy isn't full of crap.
That's the reason why we brought him on. Wait.
Well, this is why I love this, right? Because everyone has bodies, but we don't know how it works. So once they figure out how it works, then guess what? This crazy Aussie becomes redundant, and you've got this for the rest of your life. And guess what? You might be able to show this to someone else.
Exactly.
You know? So let's take this to the next level, because we've just dipped our toe in this.
Okay.
Right? So I want you to, when you exhale, I want you to blow it out and shake your body out. So blow it out, shake it out. Have your power buttons ready, but don't squeeze them until you inhale. Blow it out, shake it out. Blow it out, shake it out. Do it with me, Donna.
First.
Blow it out, shake it out.
Okay, I'm blowing out, shaking out.
Out. And when you're all the way out, blow out more. And then start breathing in through your nose. And then hit those power buttons and look at the ceiling. Look at the ceiling. Open. More. Hold it. Now wriggle your shoulders and feel that chest opening. Allow that chest to open. Allow it to open. Feel how wonderful it is to open that wonderful chest and let it out with a nice big sigh.
Holy dizzy. Holy lightheaded. Woo!
So that's your sovereign energy circulating through your system. Okay?
Wow.
And the way you did that, and I should have said this 5 minutes ago, but always do this in a safe location, supported in a chair or...
I was just going to say, I literally was going to say the same thing. I'm like, y'all just need to do it in your room, sitting down.
Yeah. Don't do it chopping up carrots or driving. All right?
Yeah.
But you've just accessed something in your body. Okay. Now just, and I exaggerated that, like that's something that you have to be in a safe place for. But now that you've got the concept, I just want you to, when you feel ready, pinch your fingers and breathe in. So your breath starts with pinching your power buttons and then just breathe in. Okay, and just let that go. And just play with that. Pinch your fingers and breathe in. Okay. Notice that? So your breath started with that finger pinch.
Yeah.
All right?
It's like the mental signal.
Yeah, because when we breathe, because we've been doing it for so long, we often need a prompt to breathe fully. Okay? So when I'm in the outside world and something's bothering me, discreetly in public, I will pinch my fingers, really suck it in through my nose, and it's a rapid inhale through the nose, because guess what? Your nose produces a particular kind of gas that if you went to the chemist and you said, I want something that improves my mood, my cardiovascular, my recovery, my immunity, creates anti-inflammation and helps me heal quicker, how much would you pay the chemist for pills and stuff that they could give you?
Probably a lot, because
a lot.
Desperate masters.
Yeah. Because your nose produces a gas called nitric oxide.
Yeah.
Okay. They used to give it to athletes to help them perform better because it's a vasodilator plus all the other features I mentioned. but it had a very interesting impact on sexual function. So Viagra is full of nitric oxide because it's a vasodilator.
Yeah.
So sexual health and sexual function is something that happens as a result of a healthy system. Whereas if you went to a doctor and said, I'm having trouble with sexual function, again, they will give you all sorts of pills to deal with the symptom, but not actually get underneath it. All right. So breathing through your nose creates a state, but pinching your fingers allows you to access it. So I'm going to do a little activity with you now.
Well, before we say that,
yeah,
when else that nitrous oxide, when it's all used all through Europe and in the States, we use it in some capacities for, like our dentists use it when they do certain like tooth extraction, stuff like that. My son had it, and we have them breathe nitrous oxide. It's exactly what they're doing. And guess what it does? Blocks the pain receptor. So my son had his tooth extracted and didn't have any pain association with it.
It's funny you should mention that. I didn't quite know that fact about it, but I had to have a part of my gum cut out and then stitched onto another part of my gum. And I'm not a pain guy with breath, but I thought, I reckon I'll be able to use my breath for this. And so I found not every dentist would let you do that without anesthetic or any kind of pain relief, but I managed with my nasal breathing to create a state where I could still stay conscious, but I was in this strange twilight zone.
We did it. We use it with labor patients. I kid you not. It's the best stuff because it's out of your system really fast too.
And so let's access our own medicine cabinet right now. Yeah, we're gonna use our breath and our power buttons. We're going to focus on our power buttons by thinking of something mildly annoying. Mildly lift light. This is the 1 pound weight we're lifting. So something mildly annoying. And then when it's in your brain, pinch your fingers and snort rapidly through your nose, almost like you're trying to blow that thought out the back of your head over your sinuses. So when you really snort through your nose, it's literally like you're trying to blast that thing out the back of your head. All right. With these power buttons. Okay.
Y'all need to blow your nose first.
Well, yes. Well, this is an inhale more than an exhale, but yes. So let's just, I invite people to gently blow out and hold, and then wait, think of something that's mildly annoying. And when you do, hit those power buttons and blow it out the back of your head as you snort through your nose rapidly. That's it. Now shake your body, shake it out.
Shaking.
And let it out with a,
I was thinking of all the bad drivers in San Antonio.
Yeah.
They're very annoying.
Well, speaking of driving, what would happen if you couldn't clear your windscreen and it just accumulated crap on there?
Yeah.
You really couldn't see where you're going, and it's a matter of time before you have an impact. This is where if the people who are listening, if they take those little power buttons and something bothers them, they can do a snort and just gently shake it out. You aren't going to be having that accumulation of stress, like a handful of gravel in your backpack, another handful of gravel, and before you know it, life's really hard. And I used to pour a lot of alcohol on that. I didn't know how to clear it when I was. So when I'm in public, I will discreetly, when something bothers me, I'm instantly pinching my power buttons and snorting in. That is one of, I found, the best ways to have the best of you for your loved ones at the end of the day, because you're not going home carrying all this crap.
And so for those, plus with this, the nitrous oxide effect. Yeah. So for those, when we're, I'm going to wrap it back to the chronic pain, something you can do during the day. You can go into the bathroom. If you're out and about and all of a sudden your pain's flaring, here's a way to help mitigate that, so you can kind of get home or, finish whatever you're doing or not,
Well, this is a bit of a subject, but I'll just drop this in now.
Sure.
Imagine if you could give yourself, 6 to 8 hours of nitric oxide treatment every night. Okay, that would be a pretty sweet impact on a whole lot of systems, one of which would be your chronic pain. Mm-hmm. And one thing that was difficult for me to do, but I'm going to mention it now because the benefits are natural and incredible. On the top of my bed head, I have all these little bits of tape. And at night time, I'll put that bit of tape over my mouth. And the first time I tried it, after like 3 or 4 minutes, I'm like, nah, that's terrible. Then the next night, I got to 7 or 8 minutes, and then I tore it off. 3 or 4 weeks later, my sinuses, I discovered they're a muscle group. So I've got a deviated septum. In the forces, I was a professional fighter, and I got a few good punches in the nose. So if when I discovered that the sinuses are a muscle group, and it took about 3 weeks to actually really start to open up. And so now each night when I tape my mouth, I'm sleeping all the way through, and guess what? I'm breathing through my nose. I'm getting the dose of nitric oxide. But if I'm breathing through my mouth open, there is a whole lot of data around breathing through your mouth and having very negative impacts on your lifestyle and longevity.
And so besides a dry throat.
and we could speak for a whole hour. And dehydration, dehydration makes your heart work harder, but breathing through your nose has all these incredible benefits. I just thought I'd drop that in there. Mouth taping, you don't have to buy, I never buy the expensive mouth tape. You just, kinesiology tape that's stretchy, I'll just cut off sections of that. That's really cheap. And then each night I'll just put it over there and, give yourself a month or two to get into it. But let me tell you, with 6 to 8 hours of quality nitric oxide dosing through your whole system, and that's just one of the gases that gets, again, this is a whole other conversation, but just for those people in chronic pain that want to access to the medicine cabinet inside of their chest, mouth taping is incredible.
That's wild. I mean, we encourage in yoga, they always say breathe through your nose, not through your mouth. I mean, so that's interesting. All right. We're going to make time here. We're like wrapping it down like we're supposed to be. I promise. Please. Like that. So this was awesome. For the audience, try the breathing out. Next time you are having that pain and it's just getting to you, try the breathing. And I've said this in previous podcasts, we're here to show you various modalities to help you. There is no one thing that fixes everything. There is no magic pill, as it has been proven time and time again, but different things can help. And breath work is one of those things that can significantly help. It's free, it's portable, you can use it anywhere. And it's beneficial. And there's more and more and more research that comes out about that. And heck, just a little bit of data that I pulled showed, the impact of chronic pain. So why not try this out and see if we can mitigate that a little bit. So, All right. Any last words, Tim?
Well, again, breath work for the medicinal rate for it to happen does need to be guided for a certain dose and duration. I would love to offer everyone listening 28 days of free guided breath work, the specific guided breath work that'll turn your bed into a cloud, get you back to sleep at 2 a.m., and then really drop your pain scales in the morning before getting out of bed, and that is the Breathwork in Bed app. And I understand people who are, fatigued and in chronic pain, they don't want to have to remember 6 things before they go to bed. I've been there, done that. They just want to say, here's what I want, take care of it for me. So all you have to do, the genius of this is all you have to do is tell it when you want to sleep, tell it when you want to wake up, and then we take care of the rest. You'll get easy as notifications. It's literally just 2 taps as you go to sleep, bed into a cloud. 2 taps in the morning, bed into a trampoline. Perfect. A tap at 2 a.m. and I tell you, it is the biggest game changer. There's you who poisons the 5 minutes going to sleep and waking up. I did that for years. And then there's you who gives yourself that peace, power, connection. Oh my gosh, my lungs are amazing. I love them. They're my best friend. Sleeping and waking. So, I offer the invitation to discover just how wondrously your lungs were made.
Perfect. All right. Next podcast, we're going to talk about social, I can't say that, social withdrawal and crowd intolerance, which we kind of seem to sprinkle a little bit in here, but we're going to focus solely on that. And, everything impacts everything, right? We're just
Oh, yeah.
teasing out some specific topics to really kind of focus on that. Because if you are having that issue, then
Oh,
you can hear a little bit more on that. So
it's
that's going to
one
be
fork,
next week.
three prongs.
Yeah, exactly. So take a breath and we'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for sitting with us today. Remember, you aren't alone and you definitely don't have to carry this weight by yourself. To find more community resources, head over to cominghomewell.com. And to start using your breath as a tactical tool tonight, check out Tim's work at breathworkinbed.com.au. Don't forget the AU. Take a deep breath and we'll see you next time.